Britain's history is as fascinating as it gets. I mean, even cheese rolling is considered a sport over there. Just imagine someone asking what you do for a living, and you replying, "I roll cheese." But that's only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Britain's unusual past. Here are 20 historical jobs you won't believe were real. Probably the worst job ever invented, gong farmers shoveled human waste out of cesspits at night, often bare-handed, choking on the fumes. Disease was everywhere, and death was a constant risk. Plumbing and sewage systems eventually saved humanity from this horror. If you think your Monday mornings are rough, imagine this. Victorian London was rat haven, and someone had to deal with it. This is where the rat catcher comes in, who patrolled cities with cages, dogs, and even ferrets. Jack Black, the Queen's official rat catcher, became a local celebrity. Modern pest control took their place, but these guys were basically frontline soldiers in the war against plague. Pulling into a station from the 1920s to 70s meant real service. Attendants pumped your gas, cleaned your windshield, and checked your oil with a smile. They knew regulars by name too. Self-service pumps killed the job, and with it, a bit of personal touch on the open road. Imagine hearing the clink of bottles on your doorstep every morning. That was the milkman. Before fridges became the ultimate kitchen necessity, you had a guy delivering milk to your door at dawn. But he didn't deliver only milk though. The milkman was part delivery driver, part gossip hub, and part unofficial watchdog. He knew who liked cream, who was out of town, and who mysteriously ordered extra bottles on weekends. Once supermarkets and fridges muscled in, the milkman faded like a 60s radio jingle. Hidden in the booth above the theater, projectionists spliced reels and kept the magic rolling. It was sweaty, dangerous work, especially with flammable film stock. Audiences never saw them, but without these pros, Hollywood blockbusters would have been a blur. Digital projectors eventually took over, dimming the light on their careers. Medicine once relied on bleeding patients, so leeches were in high demand. Collectors waded into swamps, pulling bloodsuckers off their skin to sell to doctors. It was muddy, risky, and gross, but necessary at the time. Today leeches pop up in rare surgeries, but no one's trudging into ponds to grab them anymore. Before automation, calls weren't connected by machines, but by armies of young women plugging cords into giant boards. They had seconds to respond, and managers timed their greetings. It was nerve-wracking, repetitive, and vital, until machines did it better and faster, cutting the line on the profession. Before alarm clocks were cheap and reliable, knocker-ups roamed the streets with sticks or pebbles, tapping on windows to wake clients. They were the human snooze button of the Industrial Revolution. Once alarm clocks took over, the profession vanished, but the image of a knocker-up on misty mornings still feels like a Dickens novel come alive. Before computer meant machine, it meant people, often women, hired to crunch endless numbers by hand. They worked for NASA, the Navy, and finance firms, performing calculations that powered rockets and warships. It was brain-crushing work, but essential. Then electronic computers came along and redefined the world forever. Winter once meant waiting for the coal man. He arrived announced by the rattle of coal sliding down a chute, was both a relief and a reminder of the cold outside. Covered head to toe in soot, he maneuvered heavy trucks through tight streets, then shouldered sacks weighing hundreds of pounds into basements and cellars. It was exhausting, dirty work, but it kept families warm and homes alive during the harshest winters. As oil, gas, and electric heating spread, the coalman's role slowly faded, leaving only memories of a profession that powered daily life for generations. Teenagers once crouched behind pins, resetting them by hand in bowling alleys. It was loud, dangerous, and thankless. Balls flew, pins toppled, and bruises were constant. The automatic pin setter wiped out the gig overnight in the 50s, saving generations of teens from smashed fingers. Finding books used to mean flipping through endless drawers of index cards. Catalog keepers were the librarians behind the system, handwriting every entry with flawless precision. Lose track of one card, and a book might as well not exist. Computers in the 70s made the card drawers obsolete, though many libraries still keep them around as vintage furniture. Poison was a constant worry for kings and nobles. Food tasters risked their lives by sampling every dish before the ruler touched it, It was a job of loyalty, but also one bite away from death. Today, food testing labs and security measures have replaced human guinea pigs at the royal table. An office in the 50s sounded like a symphony of clacking typewriters. Dozens of women typed bosses' notes with blistering speed. But one typo on page 20? You retyped the whole thing. No backspace, no delete. Computers eventually made the job extinct, but the sound of typewriter keys still hits a nostalgic nerve. Before fridges, ice cutters braved frozen lakes, sawing massive blocks by hand and hauling them to storage. Falling through thin ice was a constant risk, and frostbite was basically a given. Mechanical refrigeration eventually put them out of work, sparing future generations from hypothermia as a career hazard. The paperboy was a staple of neighborhoods, peddling at dawn, flinging rolled-up news onto porches. It was often a kid's first job, teaching discipline and responsibility. But once newspapers lost to the internet, paper routes dried up. Now the only thing showing up on doorsteps is Amazon. Cigar factory workers once paid a lector to read novels, newspapers, or politics while they toiled. It kept morale high and sparked debates. Bosses supported it until workers started organizing. Then radio came along and replaced the lector, turning a human voice into crackling broadcasts. In the 50s and 60s, when your bulky TV died, you didn't replace it, you called the repairman. Armed with vacuum tubes and soldering irons, they brought screens back to life. It was steady work until TVs got cheaper to replace than fix. Now, dead TVs just head straight to the curb. Every evening, lamplighters walked the streets with tall poles touching each gas lamp and sparking it alive. One by one, neighborhoods lit up, and people felt safer knowing someone had brought light into the night. At dawn, they returned to extinguish every flame, closing the ritual. Lamplighters became trusted figures, part watchman, part caretaker, marking the rhythm of city life. The work was repetitive, but it carried dignity. In many neighborhoods, lamplighters were as familiar as postmen or milkmen, trusted figures who showed up at the same time every day. Children often followed behind, watching the flicker of lamps come alive, while older residents felt assured that someone was literally bringing light into the night. In fact, lamplighters often doubled as watchmen, since their rounds gave them a sharp eye for anything unusual happening on the streets. Electricity eventually ended their work, but the image of a lamplighter still symbolizes a slower, gentler age when light itself felt almost magical. Timber once floated down rivers steered by log drivers who balanced on rolling logs like circus acrobats. It was dangerous, requiring insane agility and knowledge of the currents. With trucks and roads replacing rivers as highways, log driving drifted into history, leaving behind one of the coolest, if riskiest, jobs ever. What are your thoughts? Which one caught your attention? Let us know in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.